I start the recording for this briefing, I'm going to go ahead and read the disclaimer. This meeting is being recorded. By joining and participating in this session, consent is being given to the recording. Please keep your cameras off per NOAA Privacy Act statement. So that being said, it does look like Joe's already started the recording. So here we are for the fire weather briefing for June 19th, 2025. And I've already introduced the principals. We have Steve here in Seattle, Joe's over in Spokane. So let me switch to the right screen here. Okay. All right, so here's our current satellite imagery. As you can see, we continue to have this upper level low off the Canadian coast, which was responsible for pushing through a front yesterday. But as you can see in the imagery here, most of Washington is fairly clear. However, we're not done with this low yet. As we'll talk about in future slides, this is going to be our big weather maker for the weekend. There we go. Here in the matrix, with regards to Western Washington, I've kept everything green for the most part, and I'll explain that as we go on. The main event here is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday, we have showers. Could see some isolated thunderstorms in the mix, but the reason I kept it green was that it's really 10% or less for the most part. That may change from as we get closer, and and then I'm also noticing in the forecast is very inconsistent on where these thunderstorms may develop. Yesterday it was indicating the North Cascades, and today it's shying away from that, or at least our side of the North Cascades, and now favoring along the coast. So I do want to put out just the general threat of some isolated thunderstorms, just to kind of keep your head on a swivel. And then with regards to that, Saturday will be wet as the low moves through, and then Sunday we'll start to see activity taper off, although we'll still see some showers mainly over the Cascades. The other thing I'd like to point out, even though I don't have it on here, is that we will be warming up pretty quickly after the low leaves. And so Monday and Tuesday, we'll see our temperatures start to ratchet upwards, with Tuesday being our warmest day. And depending on how quickly, the finer fuels dry out, we may be concerned, we may not, but that's still some distance away. I've blathered on long enough. Joe, what do you have to say about the east side?
We are definitely looking forward to the showers expected through the weekend, but before that, by Friday, we are still highlighting the isolated thunderstorm threat across the northern Cascades and across most of northern Washington, and then also breezy winds through the Columbia Basin Friday morning into afternoon with about 25 to 35 mile per hour gusts. And that also extends into North Idaho with the thunderstorm threat. But hopefully by after that, we'll have continuous showers pretty much Saturday and Sunday through the weekend. While Sunday does have some chance of some isolated thunderstorms through the northern mountain areas, it's not as widespread as either Friday or Monday. And the reason Monday is not yellow is just the fact that we're expecting a decent amount of precip from these showers. So the fire start threat from thunderstorms will be not as widespread.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks a bunch. Let's move on. So, um, Joe, you've already spoken to this a little bit here, but to represent it graphically, here we have the areas where we're most concerned with regards to those isolated thunderstorms. As you can see here on the slide, about 15 to 20% for isolated thunderstorms, gusty winds, but as you mentioned, that quarter of an inch to almost a full inch of rain throughout the event could help contain any lightning starts. But it seems like with every set of good news, we have bad news, and that would be the potential for gusty winds over the basin Friday. So 25 to 35. That may give anything pre-existing a little bit of a head start before the rains actually come. Is there something I didn't cover here, Joe?
Nope, you got it all.
All right. So we've been talking about that rain, so let's give you at least a visual representation of that. Here on the west side, as you can see, our cascades are pretty zeroed in for all, a 90% chance for a wetting rain during this time frame of June 20th to June 22nd. As you get into our lowlands, it becomes a little less certain. But for the most part, again, we're looking for a fairly wet period during this time frame. As we move over to the east side, northern Washington and portions of northern Idaho share in this high percentage. Unfortunately, as we move south, especially in areas that could really use the rainfall, we're only looking at percentages in the teens or 20s, or 30s. Not exactly the percentages we would want to see to help out with the conditions down there. Joe, did you want to provide any further depth?
Yeah, you covered it pretty well.
Okay. All right. So moving on. Oh, wait. Yeah, that is the last slide. Okay. So we don't have any hazards here in effect. Although, just for interest's sake, we can see that Montana's actually got a couple of winter storm watches out there. So, um, weird to see in in late June. So let's move on to what we're expecting here. So for high temperatures today here on the east side, still looking relatively mild. Depending on where you are, closer to water, you're going to be more in the lower 60s. But as you move inland, we're looking at around upper 60s to around 70. As you cross the Cascades and go over, as you would expect, it's going to be a little bit warmer for you, but not too bad, all things considered, with high temperatures in the upper 70s to lower 80s. Tomorrow, as we see that system move in, we see our high temperatures take a definite hit, upper 50s to low 60s on the west side, and upper 60s to lower 70s on the east side. Temperatures dip a little bit more as we get into Saturday with the low passing over the state. And then finally, as things start to, as the system starts to shift eastward, we do start to see our temperatures recover a little bit on Sunday, more so even Monday. But our day for concern here is Tuesday, where again we're looking at 80s in the west side lowlands and even up into the 90s on the east side lowlands. So to go with that, we look at yeah. Oh, okay. Still getting used to the dashboard, folks. And so, okay, so for cycling through our min-RHs super quick, no real terrible watchouts here on the east, or excuse me, the west side today. However, you can see that we are getting some pretty low RHs on the east side. There we go. Okay. So as we continue to move forward in time, Friday, we'll start to see those come up. And then, excuse me, Saturday, even more so. And then as we start to see Sunday activity starting to wind down, we start to see that drop. Let me go ahead and just fast forward to Tuesday, where we see again here getting right back down to near critical levels on the east side. And we'll have to, on the west side, we're just going to have to wait and see how quickly that moisture leaves us. Right now we're kind of going with a model average, but that may change as we get closer to oh, come on, there we go. To talk about Joe's point for the wind here today, as we can see with the peak wind gusts, we are seeing, the potential to 20 to 30 miles per hour over here by Yakima and Ellensburg. And as we get into tomorrow, that definitely picks up and becomes much more widespread throughout much of the eastern half of Washington. Wind, okay. So, as the system starts to move in, we do see a little bit of that continuing in far southern portions of Washington. However, over the majority of the state, we do see those winds calm down a little bit. And then finally, again, looking at fairly benign conditions as we get into Sunday. Last thing, we've already covered chance of wetting rain pretty well, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that. But let's take a look at that prob thunder super quick. Um, so not too much today. As we get into Friday, however, you can see that the main focus is going to be for northern Idaho, northeastern and north central Washington, and then here on the west side, it's actually looking a little bit more focused on the south. Although we can't rule out a little bit of spillover into our North Cascades as well. That's part of the reason why, like I said earlier in the matrix, I kind of kept it green because there is a fair amount of uncertainty on the west side. However, as we get into the low proper moving in, this is Friday night, or no, Friday night, Saturday morning. So again, we're kind of looking at most of the focus being on the coast for us in the morning hours. And then as we get into the remainder of the day, Saturday, you see here that there is some slight chances for northern Idaho and far northeast Washington. As we get into day 4, that risk will spread kind of as the low proper gets here into eastern Washington. So that'll help provide the synoptics necessary for better lift. And again, kind of a much wider lightning threat. Not so much here on the west side. However, once again, if there is a risk for the Cascades, we can't rule out a little bit of spillover out onto the east, or excuse me, the west side. And as we get here into Monday, by this point, we're pretty much out of it here on the west side. However, there may still be some lingering activity here on the east side as we get into Monday. Moving on. So here's our QPF. And today, not a whole lot to worry about. As we get into Friday, though, this is the big day for the west side here. As you can see, there's plenty of, anywhere from a half inch to a round of inch, especially here in the North Cascades, a little bit in the Olympics, and then closer to half an inch as we travel south down the Cascades. However, even here in eastern Washington, you're still seeing what could qualify as a wetting rain as you get estimations of around a tenth of an inch, spreading almost as far south as Wenatchee. So, uh, you know, there's plenty here for everyone. And becomes a little more widespread, but a little lesser with regards to the amount as the low starts to move inland here on Saturday. And then on Sunday, you can see here that for the most part, the west side will be wrapping up, although we'll still keep some activity over the Cascades. And the focus tends to shift more now to north central, northeastern Washington, and northern Idaho. So for our trends here, I'll see if I can find there it is. I'm going to use Leicester here to illustrate the west side, and this is mainly to focus on the warm up after this low moves through. As you can see, we'll still be a little warm today here, but as we get into Friday, things cool off pretty well. As the system moves through, we start to see some recovery as we get into Sunday. And then, as you can see, we don't waste any time warming up. And Tuesday, um, will see us at our warmest, but also at our driest. So we're not near critical thresholds just yet, and I'll be curious to see how our finer fuels respond to this. But this might be kind of our entryway into summer, even though the official date would be on Friday. So, so that's what I have here on the west side. I will zoom in and see. I'll pass it over to Joe for Othello.
Really just wanted to highlight the winds for the Othello area, just starting to pick up in the afternoon on Friday. But luckily, the RHs are increasing as that system starts to come over the Cascades. And as you mentioned, we are drying out and heating back up starting next week. But luckily, the winds are going to be kind of mellow throughout that period until we start getting towards the end of the week or into Friday. All right.
Okay, on to Spokane.
Pretty much the same story for Spokane, but we are expecting a little bit better chance of precip coming Friday, Saturday time frame. But the winds aren't going to be as strong as Othello on Friday. But then we also see the dry warm up there.
And Kettle Falls.
Kettle Falls just really wanted to highlight that it's almost near 100% chance of getting some precip up there. So that's will hopefully help any kind of concern with any lightning starts through Friday through the weekend.
And last, Bonner's Ferry.
And pretty much the same story for Bonner's Ferry, just a decent chance of getting precip through the weekend. And then, so winds aren't going to be much of a concern in that area.
All right, so let's march towards the end here as we look at our 8 to 14 day outlooks. Here on the west side, we're actually leaning below normal with regards to temperatures, and much of the east side will see near normal. However, the far eastern side of the state and northern Idaho are looking at chances for above normal temperatures. As we shift to precipitation, you can see that, well, much of the state is actually looking above normal for precipitation. However, this might be a little bit of false hope, as again, we're entering that time of year where it doesn't take much precipitation to be above normal. But all in all, it's kind of nice to actually see some green over us for a change. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. As always, you can find a recording of this briefing here at weather.gov/OTX/fire dashboard, as well as walk through the slides that I've presented here, as well as some others that I did not. So with that, we'll go ahead and end the recording, and we'll open the floor to any questions.